Hey, we've got another Chinese knockoff to look at. And, well, this one's a little bit different. So let's pop it open and take a look. Well, these things just seem to keep popping up everywhere. So I guess it's the nature of the beast here. So let's crack this one open and see how ugly this is. All right. Huh. That's interesting. I'll give you a couple of and fittings here. I guess we'll see what those look like. Those are barbed and electric choke, which is weird on this carburetor. We'll talk about that in a second. So, oh, they give you a fuel filter. That's nice, and it's actually a metal one. So, it doesn't say what micron it is, but why would they tell you that? So, oh well, interesting. Let's get down to the meat and bones here. And as you can tell, this is another Holley knockoff carburetor. We'll get it on the stand here, and then let's talk about what this thing actually looks like. Before we get this thing torn down and kind of start on the review of it, it's a little weird already, but we are going to run this carburetor on the GMC truck in this video. I heard what you said last time on the last knockoff video that we did, the last couple actually, and I don't disagree with you. The plan was to save all of these and do them in one video. That way I wouldn't have to torture myself running these things, but no problem. We'll just do all this in one video. That way we can see what the pros and a whole lot of cons, I'm sure, of this carburetor is, and then we'll drop it on the truck and get it running. The only question I have is we're going to have to see if we can figure out what they did here, because I am running a 700R4, so may have to play around with that to get that to hook up, but we'll go from there. But I guess, initial impressions, it looks like a Holley carburetor. Odd electric choke, double pumper carburetor, so that's a little strange, and yeah, I don't know. I'll get some close up of that, but that's certainly a little cheesy. I don't know if that could pop off there or not, but I imagine it's not exactly the nicest in the world, but okay, well, we'll keep going here. So, some caps on here. Let's take a look at the bottom side. They are good about putting these weird caps on there, but whatever. And hopeful, I guess those probably do the job. We'll find out, but yeah, interesting. Again, this one's not any different than any other knockoffs we've looked at. They've definitely at least leak tested it. I don't know that they've flow tested it. That costs money, and I don't believe that they're in that market. I think they're just looking to do these fairly inexpensive. Boy, those are razor sharp. But there is Stoddard fluid in there, which is horrible. I hate Stoddard fluid. That's not a knock on this carburetor. That's just a horrible thing. Makes my skin feel funky. So anyway, I guess let's start tearing this thing apart and see what it looks like on the inside. But you can see we got red gaskets in here. That doesn't look too bad, but we'll start looking at these things and see if we can figure out what's going on here. Let's I think before we do that, since I got a nice clean shot down there, it looks like, let's see how those let's see how the throttle blades are in there, if they're in there tight or what. They don't look like they were staked, which I guess they haven't learned that part yet. So, okay, let's take a look at it. If you've watched any of the other knockoff videos I've done, one of the things that is certainly a big concern with these carburetors is the lack of quality in the hardware. Ooh, well, that's tight. Let's see if it's staked. Nope, I don't believe so. what happens when you're running staked hardware is it takes once you start backing it out of there, it will, see, we're almost flush with it. So once hardware is staked, it means it's kind of a one-way type of deal. You can screw it in, but typically coming out, either the hardware breaks or it just doesn't allow you to put it back in and tighten it back down and keep it from loosening up. So definitely they haven't learned anything there. So it doesn't surprise me that much. I'm not going to take this one all the way out because we're going to run this thing today and I don't want to fight trying to get it back in there. So I guess at least it was tight. So, okay, let's get the bowls off there. Kind of off to an interesting start already. Typically that hardware has been metric, if I remember correctly on some of the other videos. So that's weird. The choke pull off is there, but it is not. Oh well, we'll look at that in just a second. I keep seeing things that are weird, but typically, if I remember right, these were metric, and yeah, that was a little tight. But typically, this hardware has been really ridiculously tight. This isn't bad. We'll see how it looks coming off of here, but okay. You can see how wet that is with the Stoddard. Again, I'm not knocking them on that. I'm assuming they did that to check it. It does have a good gasket. That's nice. Ooh, man, that hardware's odd coming in and out of there. Well, let's do this. That's a 70 on there. My old eyes can read. Let's go ahead and start there. Let's pop the jets and power valve off. Take a look at those. Kind of interesting on that power valve. I don't know how well you can see it. I'll try to get some close-ups of it, but you can kind of see it's grooved in there deeply, which means that obviously it's that ridge around there, no problem. I'm not upset about that. Interesting thing is they put it on the valve side as well too, which is not very common. Typically those will seal up just fine, but an interesting way of kind of curing it, but having the right size gasket would have been a little bit better, and having a little step on there would have been good. It's a 2-window power valve. It's kind of got some funky stuff in there, so you can't really see it, but you can kind of, desk benchtop has a few of those pieces that came out of there. You can see another one there, but anyway, so you'll be getting some garbage down into your engine. Interesting thing is there is no number anywhere, so we don't know what size power valve that is. Let me get the pin gauges out and we'll pin those jets. It does say 70 on there, which would be a little big for a 650. I think Holley's on a 67 on the primary, 73 and a 6.5, and then 31 or 28 on the nozzle. So we'll take a look at that in a minute. But let's grab the pin. Always with a pin before you use it. Verify that it's the right size. And it's not really wants to go in there. It's kind of weird. It's kind of like halfway. It feels like it's got a little bit of wiggle to it. But when I try to put the 6.9 in there, it does not go. Oh, maybe it does. Okay. Alright, so the 7.0 wasn't right, but the 6.9 is. So, okay. Well, they're not 70s, so I guess we'll have to kind of go from there with that. So, Let's talk about jets for a quick second because I don't want to confuse anything here, but the jets should be rated by the flow. That's the way Holley rates theirs. The 70 that's on there, or the 70 that's on a Holley jet, isn't typically a pin size. It is how they flow it. But Holley gives you a nice little chart I'll throw up on the screen here to tell you what the drill size would be. And typically it's larger, so this is a 70, and I don't remember, but it's 72 or 73. We'll talk about one other thing here really quickly after we pin this. So it's not 72, or 72 is a little loose. 73 is good. A little tight, but okay. Now, that same pin that's good in the Holley is certainly not good in these Chinese jets. Doesn't go in there. So by flow, I don't know how they did these, how they came up with the 70 on there. The drill diameter is smaller on these than it is on the Holley 70, but the drill size on a Holley is going to be larger. And by the chart here, now that I'm looking at it, it's 73. So that makes sense that we had that pin size is that. So another thing too on a Holley jet is, we'll see if I can get a close-up of it, is they are tapered. So what Holley tells you is not to drill these, because if you drill a jet, you're going to affect the area of the taper, and that could affect the flow. You can really see the taper on the backside of them. These are just squared off. So they haven't figured that out yet, that how the fuel flows through there needs to be kind of a little more calculated than just drilling a hole and arbitrarily trying to drill it and figure it out. So just a little detail, but yeah, these aren't going to flow the same as a Holley 70 jet, even though they're marked the exact same. So just a little detail on it. I didn't want to get too down the weeds, or in the weeds with, but it's certainly important to understand what happens when we drive this thing, how it performs, and what's the actual size that should be in there. But again, just as a quick peek, 67 is what Holley puts in their 650 double pumpers, at least on the Classic Series or the Shiny Classic Series carburetors. I'm not sure if that's the same on the HP Series. I didn't even look at, because that's more of a street carburetor, so I want to compare apples to apples. So anyway, jets jacked up. One last thing on this, because I know folks are going to scream and holler about it. Chinese jet. Holley jet, let's just see if it screws in there. See if they're the same. Meeting a lot of resistance. You can tell. Let's see here. Ooh. It will probably go in there. The problem is I'm going to be damaging those threads. Just verify that these go in and out easily. Yeah, these go in and out nice and easy, so that's not an issue there. So however they've tapped these, just be aware that you're either going to have to recut some threads here, or if you just try to send it and tear some threads up and pull them out of there, your whole... Man, that is tight. Yeah, you have to be careful with that. So anyway, I'm just going to reassemble it and just call it good. So threads are good on there. It's not that. So we'll just put it back together and we'll kind of go from there. So just something to be, conscious of. A lot of people have said in past videos that, well, just take all the gaskets out of it, tighten the hardware down, Loctite it, stake it, however you want to do it. Fix that, and then just, you can use whatever jets and gaskets and all that, and you're good to go. In this case, you're stuck. You might be able to get away with it, but you trash that metering block, you're buying another $200, $250 carburetor, and you can only do that so many times, and it doesn't make any sense. So just a little detail to be aware of. Let's see what they did on the idle mixture here, and it is a 4-corner. It's interesting that they've got a little plastic in there instead of an O-ring or a cork. So I think they just had probably a cork, older cork style, and use that to try to figure it out. So okay, well, put these back together and go on from there, but not impressed with it so far. I'm not going to pin the power valve channel restrictor and see what sizes are. We can do that down the road if we want to, or any of these other circuits, idle and intermediate, or high-speed circuit, but doesn't really matter here. They're certainly drilled through, so that's all I care about. We'll just have to see how it reacts. So not going to get too into the weeds of that like we've done with some of the other carburetors that we've torn apart, especially the last Holley that we did on the vacuum secondaries carburetor. So we'll just play it by ear and see what happens. So, okay, let's get that together and we'll keep tearing it down. I didn't put 2 and 2 together quick enough on this, but the reason why this has an electric choke on here is this is supposed to be a copy of the Brawler series carburetor. 67255 is the one that Temu or whatever had on their website for the size carburetor it is, or the type of carburetor is by part number. So it's the replacement for the 67255, which makes sense. Looking at it really quick, the Holley jet that they use on that 650 for that part number is a 70 in the primary. So I guess that's the reason why they copied it that way. All right, I'm going to have to put a torque wrench on there and see what that breaks free at. Maybe it'll give us an idea, but that fitting is in there ridiculously hard. Let's get the torque wrench out. That thing's ridiculously tight. I just want to see how many inch-pounds that thing's in there on. So let's do that. What the hell? All right, we're going to see if we can figure this out. So I don't know why I was thinking inch-pounds, but yeah, we're going to have to be foot-pounds on this one. So let's see. I know this is fairly tight. I've got it set at 30. Let's just see. We are at 30. So it is less than, where are we at, 40? Yeah. So we're at 40. So that's how many foot-pounds those damn things are in there at. They are ridiculously tight. Let's see if I can. Jeez. That is absolutely insane. They have to air gun those things on there. I don't know. I don't know how in God's green earth they're getting those on there, but that's how damn tight they are. You know, those aluminum gaskets, those work okay, but damn, that thing was in there. Wow. Well, I guess we'll go from there, but yeah, that's the reason why. But I think I've got a fuel line I can use to hook all that up with, but good grief. All right, let's keep going. While we are at it, let's go ahead and look at gaskets, because that's certainly one of the questions that I'll get asked is there a replacement gasket for it? So bull gaskets don't look okay. So yeah, you could replace this with a standard Holley bull gasket, so that's good there. Let's see if we've got the answer to that question is yes. You can find a Holley metering block gasket, at least on the primary side. So good to know, I guess. So one of the knocks that I had on it before is that you were screwed. You couldn't do anything. You were stuck. Your gasket was it. If it was dead or torn, or you ripped it or whatever, you were on your own. But so the answer to that's yes. That is a positive. that at least you can replace those gaskets. We'll check the secondary, and we'll check the base plate gasket as well too. But at least that's a start. So one thing I just noticed as I was looking at this, it's a down leg style booster. That's understandable, but it's interesting. They did notch these so you can remove the pins out of there, and not much you can do with it. It's not like you're gonna change booster sizes because there's no boosters available from the knockoff company, but potentially that means that the Holley booster will fit in there, and if you need to go up on a pin size, but again, you're screwed there too because we don't know exactly on the metering block what the channel size is and all that. So it's interesting that they did it. I guess it was because it was a copy of it and whatnot, but at least they didn't put the part number on it. But okay, all right, let's keep going. Another little observation here is the needle and seat isn't in there. Well, it's in there, but it's loose. So yeah, you're gonna have to check everything on this carburetor if you decide to run it. Let's go ahead and get the rear bowl off there and take a look at it. Oh, jeez. That one's loose. There's no rhyme or reason to it. That's what's frustrating with it. There's literally no way of knowing what the heck you're gonna get. So I thought at first those were crushed down, and it looks like it is, but no, it is. It's just a very soft. Man, I get it. I understand being, careful with it so you don't cause a leak, but those are going to cause a leak. So we'll have to be on the lookout for that when this goes on the truck. We'll have to see what if the Brawler doesn't have a power valve in the secondary. I imagine they probably don't. Oh, good grief. Why do they put those in there so tight? I mean, it's a 4-corner idle. That thing was in there so damn tight that, yeah, I don't like how that needle feels, but it's neither here nor there. Now that side's loose. Again, there's no rhyme or reason to this thing. So, all right, let's just pop a jet out and just... Okay, well that one wasn't in too tight, so that's a good thing, I guess. But, okay. Let me grab a Holley jet and just see if it fits in there better. Well, that's interesting. So those front ones were so doggone tight I could get it maybe a thread started. This one, it screws right in. Yeah, a little on the tight side. Or really on the tight side. I'd be less critical of these things if there was any consistency to it. Okay, so the jets are going to screw into the rear, no problem. Ish. You're going to pay for that eventually. Something's going to happen with this thing driving. I just know it. Based on the dyno results that I've seen from some Chinese stuff that's been dynoed, and how erratic they are and how inconsistent they are with transition circuits, idle, main circuits, channel sizes. It's not going to surprise me if this is way out of whack. So, okay, I'll just have to remember to set those. So let's go ahead and take apart that. Okay, we're all back together for the most part. One thing I think I understand is the reason why they tightened down the bowl hardware so aggressively is I think once they put the starred fluid in there, if it's leaking, that's where they try to take and stop the leak. So understandable, I guess. The problem with that is on the passenger side rear lower float bowl screw, it's feeling like it's about ready to let go. So I'm going to have to watch that really carefully. And I'm going to guess that once we test drive it, hopefully that works out okay. We get it off the car. I'm going to crank it down a little bit more and see if it pulls out of there. So wouldn't surprise me if it did. So it's just one of those things where you buy a very inferior product, you're gonna have to deal with some of those things, and I think that's a big one. So let me make a fuel line kit for this thing. I don't think I've got anything here. I think I've gotten rid of all of the Holley ones that I had, and then we'll get this mounted up on the car or on the truck and see what we can do. So let's do that, make that happen. We'll get out to the truck. Kind of hard to see it, but the sight glasses are leaking fuel. So both front and rear. So I guess we have to come back apart, see if we can't get those sealed up. Yep. This thing's had a lot of leaks on it. You can tell where it's pooling down there. I don't know if you can see that at all, but look how wet the spacer is. It's soaked, so I'll have to keep an eye on it. Off about the 10th time here to try to repair this thing, so we'll keep going. So here's the thing, we had about a day to play with this thing. Once I broke it down on the bench, put it back together, figured there was going to be some issues with it, but there have been so many leaks on this carburetor that have been unexpected. Out of the sight glasses, they're still leaking. I had to kind of make a janky fuel line to fit it. The problem is they Loctited those in. Remember, those were so hard to get off and so many foot-pounds of torque to get those things to break loose. It's because they red Loctited those suckers in there. So it took me quite a long time to clean them out, and I bet you I spent 2 hours on it trying to get it all cleared out of there so I could get the adapters to stop leaking. But every time I turn around, we keep springing different leaks in different places, and it's not the way I want to do it. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this back off. I'm going to make a better fuel line. I don't like the way that fits. I'm going to order some other fittings for it. We'll try it that way, see if I can repair those to get them to stop leaking. And yeah, I think we've got pretty much all of the other leaks solved. There was the rear accelerator pump was torn. I think we disassembled the front one. You can see all the fuel leaking out of there. That may be from the sight plug. We'll have to figure that out. But I replaced that, put a good one in there. That one stopped leaking. I'm just going to have to go through this thing and see if we can figure out. See, that sight glass is good. Rear one's good. But both of these on the passenger side are leaking. So honestly, it's going to take a full tear down of this thing. Again, I'm going to fix some issues with it. I'm going to change the gaskets on there. That's the other thing with this. The rear and one on the front, I think it's this one on the inside, I'll have to check. The problem is they just tighten this down so much to get it to stop leaking. The problem is these aren't designed, those aluminum bodied carburetors aren't designed to take a lot of torque. And unfortunately, those threads are starting to pull out of there, which is going to be a repair on the main body to get it done. But I would have loved to taken this on a drive just to see how it ran, and hopefully it would give us something a little bit better to go by. But honestly, it's done nothing but fight me. So I'm okay with that, but this is a brand new carburetor out of the box. It's supposed to be ready to bolt on, make some adjustments, do some tuning, and done. But God help the person that buys one of these piles of crap, because you're going to spend a lot of time fighting all these little issues. And yeah, I don't know. So anyway, this thing's just a pile. I don't know how other to put it. Yeah, you can make all those changes, put up some new gaskets in it, and try to seal up all the leaks and all that, but you're buying a carburetor for $250, $260, whatever these things are going for on eBay or Temu or whatever, and then you are spending another probably $70, $80 on hardware, gaskets, time. There's probably 4 hours farting around with this thing. So yeah, I get it. I understand people want to save money, but just buy a new carburetor, cry once and pay for the carburetor once, and you at least get something good and decent running, and something you can tune, and something if there is an issue, you can always call Summit or Holley or whatever and get it taken care of. But I got no phone number to call for these folks. I don't have any clue who they are. So yeah. Anyway, that's all for this one. I'm going to try to repair this thing, and then I guess what we'll do is we'll add it to the shootout when we do that somewhere down the road. So hopefully I can get this thing dialed in, but I've got a whole day's worth of time monkeying around with this thing with the tear down and everything else. So yeah, don't waste your money on this crap, guys. It's just not worth it. So anyway, I guess if you have any comments, leave them down below. Try to stay civil with it. I ask that every time we review these crappy Chinese knockoff carburetors, and for the most part, you do a good job with it. But a few people that want to vehemently defend buying this crap from China will come in and leave some choice words. Just know that YouTube, the filters are pretty strict on there. So if you're dropping a bunch of 4-letter words, your comment's not going to show up. And if it does, it's not going to last there very long. So anyway, just try to keep it civil, and I guess we'll get on to the next one. All right, guys, we'll see you next time.